Hello, this is Gerald to Van Was. I neglected actually to mention also that some of the letters, origins of meanings also are rooted in astrology for a large part. And I neglected to mention this, but it is needed when for instance, when I was starting to describe the meanings of some of the Chinese characters. Actually, some of them can't be understood very well without that background. And I have a couple of times worked out the subject of the origins of astrology as signs that inspire towards the logic of letters, how they hang together and how they are making a logic on its own. And the origins of astrology as signs themselves are, you can find some of it in the changeling of seasons already, where I'm looking into the patterns based upon what we see of what is moving at the sky and how we behave towards the several seasons and what is needed for them, is a way of attention that is one of the inspirations to build up elements that we need to orient ourselves into the world with letters. Also in the application of the word are mentions of that. And I want to take out something of that last book, or it's also in sounding form, also because I see that at this moment it's almost nobody buys this book, so I have to say something of it because I personally think some of it is quite interesting also for me, and I should actually go back to some of it and work it out even more. And one of the things that were very interesting for me was this map, this 14th to 15th century Korean star map, which divided 28 sections of regions that were based upon, let's say, astrological signs or actually positions that can be recognized by watching the stars, and they match these positions of where the moon is at that certain point. They match to a kind of logic that fits with how we should actually behave and deal with during the 4 seasons. That's basically what it does, and how it is associated as a balance of a certain moment. It's not that you have an astrological thing going on that has an influence on us. No, it is part of a logical system that we can recognize the moments in time, because that's where it is about. We can recognize moments in time by patterns. And lots of these so-called star signs are more adapted to the logic than other way around. And that's what I also explained in my book. But I will take out two small parts as a teaser of this. Just the first couple of signs, so that they see certain signs in the sky as an order, and this order is followed just as you follow from 1 to 10 or from A to B. It is following a certain order with a logic that slowly builds up, and this slowly building up of logic is also defined by the way how we see things. It's not just what we see, it's how we see things. And of course, before you recognize the clock in the sky, you have to pinpoint the starting point. But in the general, you have to start from the big frame. The big frame in itself is a starting point to see, okay, where is a point that we can really start from, we ourselves, like a neutral 0 point, where you can start to do something with it, as a matter of speaking. And it is like at the point in the north where you have, of course, the north, where you have to figure out the north first. If you want to find the clock in the night sky, you have to find the north first. Of course, how do we find the north? Everybody knows which star system is used for this, to figure out where the north is. And the totality of everything what we do is counting on a very good starting point, a 0 point, as a matter of fact. And that's the head of this tortoise as well. It's the 0 point, and it's also assigned to the sign of the in the Chinese script. You can see it there. It's the head. The head is also used everywhere where you have one of the elements, and you say it's the element that with head to it. It's the head. It's the leading part, in which you still have to figure out what to do with it. In which direction should we go? And that's still undefined there. It's depending on what you do. And the letters and words in all of these signs I connected to also to English words. So I have all words that we generally know. And that makes it easy to understand the logic why these sounds are used vaguely then as the Chinese words, because we mostly use the English words as a reference. So here we have something to do, something to go to. And from there onwards, we start to find the number 1, of course, and we know it from that's the point where we have something that moves into a certain direction. You find something new, you find a leading point, a number 1. As you see, this leading point is a leading point that we can use. How do you recognize this character of the Chinese script? It is a part of the working field in which, like the car of the ox. The ox is leading, but so you have a leading moment where you can start with. It's leading, but it's actually not leading as someone who leads and do whatever he wants. No, the ox is led by the axe, just like the ox. The axe is led by the ox. You can follow it, and you can make it follow what is needed for the things that will happen, and so on. So astrology is a very big word. It's not that it's written in the stars, so we know what's going on. That's one of the kind of attentions people give to it. No, it's an astrological clock as well, and you see, okay, what is needed. The ox on its own has not the clever brain to see where it has to build up on its field, in which direction. You have to lead it. It's the starting point. That's all you know. So you direct it from the ox or the axe, and this is still led by people's actions. And the letter A is the same thing. The alpha. Here starts the alpha, and on the other end of this section is the omega. And this balance between what is in the alpha, what's in the starting point, in the omega, is in the omegank, we have also as a word. So it's in the cycles that we have. We try to figure out what we do in the bigger context, in how it is going, what it is going to do in its full cycle. So we follow a starting point in a cycle. There are some reference points in the sky that you can use. This is the A, and you have to follow it from A to omega. These are all points in the stars as an association to make you think also correctly and in balance. And that's where the astrology originally was meant for, not to predict anything, or even in I have also investigated this Islamic astrology from Ibn Arabi, which was developed in Spain at that, let's call it, in this Islamic period that he had there. This is also interesting from the perspective on what do we need, what are the reference points, and how can we build up from reference points to learn from, so that we act correctly. And that's what is astrology originally produced for it. And of course, the next point, and that's where I will stop. The next letter will be the B for the Greek letters, and in the Chinese script you have Nu, or the female part, which of course tends to seek out what is it going to do. So you started with you want to do something. You have a reference point, a 0 point. You start of a starting point. So start to not to lead it, but to be led by where you are in the field, so that you can start to do something. And then what you will do at that next point is you want to become something. Something has to come out. You are open to it. You're in a pure sense of openness, and there you start. And I will not continue from there, except that I will take out in this small section of the first of the 4 parts in this astrological scheme, the alpha and the omega. These balances, they are worked out as a counterbalance. And here I read this quote from the book: the perspective of the point is found in a framework. So as soon as the alpha starts on its path, the omega shall restrict its procession in terms of scope. From the perspective of the earth, only the visible part will be exposed. As B further adjusts its progress, Psi shall seek the balance therein as the recurrent gravity. While C records the snapshot, it shall also be the intersection of circumstances with the letter that we now know as X. While the space is filled, this becomes the space of one's place therein. With the Greek letters combined. And here's another part to see this balance between the 0.1, 2, until you have the first snapshot of the moment that you can figure out, okay, where am I more or less, where am I going, and so on, into the bigger context, of course. The whole way how these things are built up as astrology are also related with actually logic on its own. And even the letters follow that logic. Sometimes it's a bit annoying that we no longer remember the letters where they come from, but the letters also always have that origin in that astrology, as you can see in the alpha, when something is going into some direction, that you can find it. Oh, it's in the sky, something is turning into a direction. I found a direction. So where will I notice the next point where it will lead to from A to B? That's what I had there. The omega even, see that between 2 points, there is a whole set of a way where it will go, and a whole history where it will go. That's the omega. Not much more than that. And just a small section of another part, it is the spring phase, where you have a completely different mentality and attention, also in logic, and also there it will build up again. It will not go from alpha to omega, it will go from the A to Z. And even in the Bible you will find these sections, if they are translated well. If you have from alpha to tau, from alpha, sometimes you have from alpha to omega, sometimes, and we know also from A to Z. It's a different section in logic, and there is a logic behind it in letters, which is also interesting to figure out. It's just one Chinese letter that is described from there. It's not really expressed as Qiao, but it is quite funny that in the beginning of spring, where everything is demanding also a different kind of attention than you had from the north, or in the winter, or from the north focus on where are we at that point. Here it is, what shall we do in winter? How shall we act? What can we receive from the field? You have that working field there, as you can see in Qiao, if I pronounce it well. And you have the focus on the first part on where things are developing in the spring section, actually. And I have another quote from my book, The Greek Letters, that one could begin to count here, or once again from alpha to zeta, in the form of a new beginning. When one follows the motions in the figure of the dragon in reverse, then it ends in omega, and the first phase thereof needs the first impetus, such as that with the letter R, followed by the series from tau to omega. Together this deals with the stimulating or the spring or the eastern part. In principle, one could start afresh with a summary from A to Z in the spring, while the naming of the things themselves or the letters could demonstrate how one is already dependent on the aspect of the life-bringing H, or the breath, where the Greek H, as you can see it as written as the H, is actually pronounced here as A, just like the Dutch word A or egg. It creates the result just like the egg, as we say, is laid in spring. For that matter, the Chinese association with Qiao, or as Qiao, as see, this confusion with languages is sometimes ciao means hello in Italian and is used in a greeting, just as hey is used also as, or hi is also used as a greeting. And that's a way how letters hang together at certain positions also. You have certain positions which are positions that can be related to an astrological sense of orientation, because these astrological associations are a certain point in time in balance with processes, and and that's how they exist as processes in time. There's a balance. That's why there is a balance between these 4 seasons, this balance between the 12 months, a balance in between the elements. That's why they exist in the first place as a logic on its own. This was a good introduction for the application of the word, part that you can also find in Sound in Form. Astrological associations are also used very much in the changeling of seasons, which is a bit more an intuitive work, but this is also explaining a lot the balance between the elements, balance between also how they are used in tarot. And the balance of the astrology can be very much derived to how the balance into the 4 seasons is actually much more in how the movements of everything is at certain points, how the light is changed at certain points, and so on and so on. That kind of associations you can find also in the changeling of seasons. Okay, there was a bit of publicity to it. I don't mind, but I hope in the future I will also explain some of the things that are there more in detail, but I don't always dare to go to build it out further, simply because I don't understand all the Chinese characters well yet, so I'm dependent on what I still have to learn at that point. The other thing I still want to do in one of the next videos is how our vision changes from finding directions in logic, and that led to some of these astrological signs or even letters. And that could still be another interesting second video after this one. Okay, and anyhow, thanks for watching. This was Gerald Habermas, as a website too, and a Facebook too, and so on and so on. Thanks again. Bye.